Oh man, Aura versus IDShield. See, the thing is, I want to like IDShield, but I just can't. Their interface needs work. So if you want to protect yourself from identity theft, then Aura's gotta be the better option for most people, especially if you want to get protection for your spouse, your kids, and even your parents too. Before you make up your mind, check out the video description for my latest recommendations and links to any deals I have, because I can come back and update that description, but not this video. So look, I've used 7 different identity theft protection solutions, and I gotta say that IDShield has potential when it comes to their monitoring and their fraud resolution offerings. And if you've ever been taken for a ride before, you know how important both of those things are gonna be in your identity theft protection plan. But in my experience, Aura is even better in both regards, and when you look at their pricing and when you look at the completeness of their packages, they're really just arguably the best one out there. I would argue that at least. Their plans offer so much and they're so approachable that even someone who's never been a victim before will see the value in them. So when you throw the issues with IDShield's interface into the mix, it really makes this one an open and shut case. But we're here, we're doing it. Let's see what happens when Aura and IDShield clash in the ring of identity theft protection. One thing to note right off the bat here is that when you take a look at the pricing structure for identity theft protection plans from Aura and IDShield, you'll notice that Aura's plans are all inclusive. The price you pay changes depending on whether you want an individual plan, a couple plan, or a family plan, but all of the plans include all the features. IDShield is almost similar in this way, but they do have a bit of a price tier structure when it comes to credit monitoring. Their baseline plans include 1 bureau credit monitoring, and for an extra $5 per month at the time of filming, you can upgrade to 3 bureau credit monitoring. We'll talk about credit monitoring in more detail later in this video. So for the purposes of this comparison, it probably makes sense to look at the upgraded plan with 3 bureau credit monitoring from IDShield next to Aura's plans, which all include 3 bureau credit monitoring. But even if you look at the pricing for IDShield's baseline plan with 1 bureau credit monitoring, it's pretty much the same price for an individual plan as you would pay for with Aura on an individual plan. It's $14.95 per month with IDShield versus $15 per month with Aura. Although with Aura, if you pay annually, the price comes down to $12 per month. So if you do opt for 3 bureau credit monitoring with IDShield, their individual plan is already more expensive at $19.95 per month. With that all laid out, let's take a look at how Aura and IDShield actually work once you get inside the dashboard. And actually, this is a good opportunity to point out one example of how IDShield's interface is somewhat lacking. When you sign in, you'll see that the system is broken down into a few different modules. So if you want to access the monitoring section, you click a button, it opens up a new tab, and you have to sign in again. It's not the end of the world, just a minor annoyance really, but every time you have to sign in, you'll have to sign in twice, and it's always opening up these new windows, which isn't really so elegant for a piece of software that's supposed to help you with your digital privacy. But once you're inside with either platform, to get started with monitoring, you'll want to add in your personal information that you want them to look for during their scans. Both Aura and IDShield allow you to monitor quite a few different types of personal information, definitely more than some of the other companies out there. And I haven't bumped into any ceilings of how much of each type of personal information they allow you to monitor either. Aura tells you the limits and they're high enough. IDShield doesn't, but I can monitor everything that I want to put in. Some companies like Norton's LifeLock and Costco's Complete ID, for example, only allow you to monitor 5 and 4 email addresses respectively, which doesn't cover all of mine. Anyway, once you have your personal information in there, Aura and IDShield will start performing their scans and they'll send you an alert if they find anything of interest. One nice thing that Aura does upon signing up is that they automatically submit opt-out requests with data brokers on your behalf to help cut down on spammy communications. Things like robocalls from someone claiming to be Comcast, junk mail, which is the only kind of physical mail I really get anymore, and even email spam. When I signed up, it was 30 data brokers that Aura submitted opt-out requests with, and every now and then I get emails from them saying they've submitted more opt-out requests on my behalf, so it's ongoing. I haven't seen IDShield doing anything like this. Aura will also monitor utility account records and send you an alert if an identity thief opens an electric account in your name, for example, which I don't believe IDShield does either. But both companies offer public records monitoring, so if someone tries to add their name to your home deed, you'll get an alert for that. And they monitor criminal records, so if someone puts your name down during an arrest, you'll get an alert for that as well. IDShield also offers change of address monitoring so that if an identity thief redirects your mail with the USPS to get access to your bills and pay stubs, you'll get an alert for that. I'm not certain that Aura doesn't do this, but I can't confirm for certain that they do. Aura does also monitor your car titles as well, so if an identity thief tries to add their name to that deed, you'll get an alert too. I haven't seen this with IDShield. IDShield offers payday loan monitoring, so you'll get alerts if someone uses your SSN for a short-term loan. I haven't seen this with Aura explicitly, but they do provide SSN monitoring, so I'd suspect that they do. Of course, the juiciest part of personal information monitoring is the dark web monitoring, and I'll show you what these companies turn up for my personal information on the dark web in just a bit here. Before we do that though, I want to go over what these companies offer for financial monitoring, as well as some of the other benefits they have to offer. So as I mentioned earlier, both companies offer credit monitoring, although you will need to pay a bit more with IDShield if you want 3 bureau credit monitoring with each of the big kahunas, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Credit monitoring is a central part of an identity theft protection plan, because if an identity thief tries to open a credit card in your name or does anything that leads to an inquiry into your credit file, you'll get an alert so that you can look into it promptly and take an action if necessary. With 3 bureau monitoring, you'll have the most responsive and robust protection, because if there are any inquiries with any of the bureaus, you'll You'll find out. With just one bureau, you may miss something, or at least not hear about it as quickly, because the bureaus aren't always necessarily in sync. And that's in sync, like the two words, rather than in sync, like everyone's sister's favorite boy band. I'd be lying if I said they don't have any catchy tunes. Beyond monitoring your credit records with Aura, you also get access to monthly Vantage scores and annual credit reports from each of the 3 bureaus, which is great. With IDShield, it seems like even if you upgrade, you're only getting monthly Vantage scores from TransUnion, so scores are only from one bureau. I've only used their one bureau monitoring plan, so I can't confirm firsthand though. And with IDShield, you're not getting credit reports at all. What you get is a link to annualcreditreport.com, which anyone can use, but a lot of the identity theft protection companies are pulling the reports into the dashboard for you, so IDShield's a bit behind here. And the last thing to mention here is that Aura gives you a credit lock so that you can prevent unwanted inquiries into your Experian credit file from happening in the first place with the click of a button. Nothing like this from IDShield. The other component of financial monitoring is transaction monitoring, and both companies allow you to link bank accounts, credit cards, and investment accounts so that you can monitor all of your financial activity in one place. And they allow you to set alert thresholds so you'll be notified of any changes that are over the limit you set. That way, if something unexpected comes through, you can look into it quickly and see if it's legitimate. Beyond that, both companies offer a VPN, a password manager, and antivirus solutions. All these things to have if you don't already get them elsewhere. And IDShield actually offers social media monitoring, so you can link your accounts to get notified if there's any inappropriate activity going on. Usually that would be an indication that someone got into your accounts and is using them maliciously. So now let's head over to the fun part, which is dark web monitoring. Whenever I set myself up with an identity theft protection solution, I always make sure to input the same personal information so that they're all looking for the same stuff when performing their scans. This helps keep a level playing field and makes it possible to compare the performance of their monitoring capabilities in a fair way. Lucky for me, all that these companies ever really find is instances of my leaked login credentials available on the dark web. And almost certainly, they're going to find some of yours too. Typically, the login credentials are for various websites you've used over the years that hackers have gotten a hold of as the result of a data breach. Aura finds a total of 18 dark web hits for my personal information, and of those 18, there are 9 hits that are unique. And what I mean by that is that the unique hits aren't just duplicates posted in different places on the dark web, usually as part of a compilation resource to make life easier for cybercriminals, identity thieves included. So those 9 unique hits that Aura finds are from websites like Adobe, Canva, Dropbox, and Myspace. And someone even figured out the password to one of my Gmail accounts, so that's out there for the world to see. But now I'm sure you're wondering how IDShield compares, and I'm happy to share with you that I'm wondering too. Actually, I guess I'm not happy. In reality, it makes me rather sad. The problem is that with the way IDShield's interface works, I can't actually go back and revisit the dark web alerts once I've dismissed the notifications, which is a huge design flaw. I wrote down when I signed up with them that they found 17 dark web hits, so it's at least that many, but I can't say how many IDShield finds total, I can't say how many are unique, and unfortunately I can't even say what they found. So even though clearly IDShield finds quite a bit of dark web hits, I have to say that Aura wins this one by default. There's still a bit more to the story though, so let's take a look at what Aura and IDShield offer for fraud resolution. From a financial standpoint, IDShield plans include $1 million in reimbursements for unrecovered costs. Most of the other companies call it insurance, so I'm not entirely sure what the difference is here. 1 million is a fairly standard number across the different companies I've used, although some offer more. Aura offers up to $1 million in identity theft insurance per adult, which is up to $5 million on their family plan. IDShield plans include dedicated, licensed private investigators, which is nice. Most of the other companies don't say that their resolution team is licensed. Contrast that with Aura though, they offer white glove fraud resolution. So basically, in the event that you're a victim of identity theft, they'll put together a resolution plan to get you back to where you were before the incident, or at least as much as possible. And more importantly, they'll do all the legwork. Things like making phone calls, filling out forms, making sense of dense legal documents, those types of things. All of that would take you hours upon hours, and if you're a victim of identity theft, you're not going to want to be dealing with those kinds of things. Your head's going to already be spinning enough. Then one last thing worth mentioning here is that both of these companies have great customer support teams, which the only reason I care is that the self-proclaimed #1 most recognized brand in identity theft protection is pretty bad in this regard. And again, that's important with identity theft protection because if something really bad happens, the last thing you want to do is be on the phone with someone who is just wasting your time. All in all, I think Aura is just a more comprehensive solution. From a pricing standpoint, they definitely have the edge. And when you look at the limitations imposed by IDShield's interface, it's kind of a showstopper, unfortunately. Again, there are a lot of things I like about IDShield otherwise. Remember to check out the video description for my latest recommendations and links to any deals that I have. You can check out my full reviews of Aura and IDShield right here on this channel. And I have tons more reviews and comparisons of identity theft protection companies, both published and in the queue, so stay tuned.